today I'm here with Fenna Timsi, candidate for the municipality elections that are going to happen on the 18th of March of this year. Also, this is a special collaboration between BaisMag and BaisWave, so our magazine and radio of the Bachelor of International Studies. So Fenna, could you introduce yourself to our readers and listeners that don't know you yet?
Yes, of course. Thank you so much for the invitation, first of all. I really appreciate it. My name is Fenna Timsi. I am candidate number 13 on the list for GroenLinks PVDA for the City Council of The Hague. My journey kind of started growing up here. I grew up in The Hague, in the Stationsbuurt. There's also quite some students living there, so maybe you know it. Also a lot of places to visit. But what I always saw as a kid, the neighborhood I grew up in was so diverse, and in so many ways I saw all the different people from different countries living there, different backgrounds, but I also saw like some differences that struck me a lot. For example, you could see a lot of people without a house on the street. You could see a lot of differences, how neighborhoods were treated on my way to school. So this was the moment for me that I decided I want to do something about this. I want to make sure that my city is one that's equal, that my city is one that has place for everybody, where we take care of each other. So then that's kind of where my journey started. And then I decided to study physics, which is a bit different from everything that I'm doing now. But now I'm actually doing a master's in international relations as well. And the last, let's say, 2.5 years, I was a United Nations youth representative on human rights and security. So that basically meant translating all the visions, opinions, worries, loves of people into international politics. Now I am running for city council because I felt that the moments that made it the most meaningful were those with young people, very close to the people, in childcare, in education facilities. And I wanted to make a difference for them.
How did it happen, the switch from physics to international relations?
Yeah, it's a good question because it's really random. It can seem, but actually sometimes I see some similarities in terms of how you bring atoms together. Sometimes it is a bit more difficult to bring them very closely together energetically, or just to smash them against each other. I feel like this is sometimes a bit politics as well. But I actually ended up there because I did a campaign on gender-based violence. So something that we saw, it's probably also something that you recognize around you. A report came out by Amnesty International that 1 in 9 female students were raped at the time when I was studying physics. And this shocked me a lot, because I saw it like all around me. I saw stories, we all know a story, may not be ourselves. And I was so shocked to see how structural this was. And I remember posting something like, this is really bad. We have to do something. We have to get organized at the university. And I started working then with Amnesty International, and we saw a lot of young people saying, we should definitely do something about this. And what happened is we did a campaign with Amnesty on changing the rape legislation in the Netherlands. So we wanted to make it consent-based, and the law passed. And we could see so much difference in our community ourselves, that this was really for me a moment where I was like, whoa, we can actually change things,
That's a nice achievement, starting especially without experience before.
Yeah, and I think, we all have lived experience, right? Like there's so much that we bring to the table as young people as well. Because literally, like in this campaign, there were people that we didn't have any money, like we didn't have any money, but we needed to organize ourselves very creatively. And for me, this showed like, okay, a lot of things that you think are set in stone, like the law, you can change them with young people. And that's why also like part of my mission is to make sure that, young people have the opportunities to do so, that they are given the right to do so, that they have the full freedom to do so. And then we listen to them because, you know, all these things that we now think are set in stone, they have to change eventually. And I think it's going to be us that do it.
This is very important. One of the most important points in your campaign is the fight against women's violence. Based on your experience as a UN Youth Ambassador that advocated a lot against women's violence, what do you think could be implemented in our city to make it more safe for women and for everyone in general?
Yeah, I love this question. We also recently had an action that we did together with the Jonge Socialisten and Dwars. So those are like the youth wings of the party of GroenLinks PVDA. And it was a light action. I will explain what that is. So recently we saw like an assault on a woman on the street in the Stationsweg. And we said, this cannot happen, you know, in our city. We really need to reshape how we are behaving with each other. We need to treat women well. So what we did is we wanted to illuminate the city, especially in the dark, where you see a lot of incidents happening, of course. So we were with a lot of people and we all took our lights to light up the city, but also we wanted to create a warm city that feels good for everybody. And there we asked people, what do you want for your city for it to be safe? And also to men, what are you going to do? You know, because let's be honest, we also have to make a cultural shift, right? We also need men to
participate.
Yeah, and to act normally, you know? So there also a few things came out that we also advocate for a lot and that I really want to change when I'm in city council. So first of all, it is to have very strong and integrated approach on street intimidation, but also on domestic violence, because that's also part of the problem. And also to make sure that we have a very good approach against femicide. And something that we really want to see happening is that the city is also designed from, let's say, the perspective of a woman, you know? So what do you see now? A city is still sometimes very male-centered, you know? It's not really, the perspective of the woman is not really taken like, oh, okay, I'm walking here alone. Is there nearby a cafe with a diverse group of people, you know? Or how is the light? How is it regulated? Is it like, is it a lot of light all at once, so I feel threatened? Or is there, for example, no light, which is also not good for the sense of safety? And also to make sure that all the decisions that we make sure that we test whether this is beneficial for the safety of women. Because, you know, we all know the stories of us like walking with our keys behind or like in our hands, trying to protect ourselves. Like even some people told us that, you know, they try to look like a man in the night because otherwise they're scared, you know. This cannot happen anymore. So this is something that we want to implement in order for the city to be safer for everybody.
Yes, especially since it's an experience. For example, the key experience, it's shared among every woman.
Yes.
Not just in the Netherlands, but everywhere.
Yeah, and it's political will, huh? Like, for example, we say a lot of times, like, I can hear like, yeah, but this is a problem that we will resolve in many years. No, we have to do it now.
Right now. Yeah. Yes. I have one last question specifically for you, and then I have 4 points that some fellow students brought up to me about some changes that they would like to happen in the city.
Yes, love it.
The last question is specifically about one of the main points of focus in your campaign, which is focusing on the area of Southwest, so the southwest of the city.
Yes.
When you talk about focusing in on that area, do you are you talking about the affordability of the area, the safety, the services? What are we talking about specifically?
Yes, so I think one of the, like I just came from Southwest, so I took my bike and biked very fast to come here. But there's a lot of things that we see there, right? Like on the one hand, we see amazing people that are working every day for their part of the city. You know, there is a lot of people that have all these initiatives that are supporting each other, that you have a lot of like language learning, you see a lot of more culture blooming, things for youth to do. And on the other hand, what we also see is that this also is an area that we have to invest way more in, you know, like what I said also about, for example, Stationsbuurt, you know, now it has changed quite a lot, but when I grew up there also, it was an area that needed a lot of like investment and improvement and political will in order to make the city more equal. So there's a few things, like for example, a lot of like things that people also tell me in the city, in a specific area, is, for example, the housing. It's of course not only in Zuidwest, but one thing that's very important is to make sure that our houses are affordable. I mean, you know, we're all students, so
Yes.
we know also the struggle, right? But also to make sure that you can live where you want in an area that has diversity of what kind of housing you have, you know, to make sure that the rent is way lower, because like, I mean, I've spoken to people, you must also know these stories, like that they are literally couch surfing for a year, maybe even more, you know. These are young people, like students that have to do it, but it's also families, you know, it's families that are ending up on the street. You know, this cannot happen, you know. So I think this is something that's very, very important. One of the other things also is in the area is safety, but also, for example, I live in Laakkwartier now, and one of the things that I think is very important, you know, we're talking about affordability, but also mobility, you know, how fast can you be somewhere? I mean, I can bike quite fast, but I also mean like public transport should be very accessible, you know. This has huge impact on the opportunities of people. I even have like, because I also teach at a high school in Schilderswijk, Jan de Wit College, it's lovely, you should come there once. But I have students that also tell me like, well, miss, do you know it's very expensive to come here for just a few hours? Like this cannot happen, right? It just needs to be affordable.
It needs to be accessible.
Yeah, exactly, right? And it's the same for students. You know, if you're a student, I don't think you should be worried all the time and like, I don't know, being going to sleep with like stress in your body because you're like, where am I gonna live, you know? Or I have like 3 jobs next to my studies, you know. A lot of students that I also talk to, they say like, oh yeah, I don't really go to classes because I have to work all the time, you know. I don't know if this is something you also
it's
hear.
a felt experience,
right?
Yes.
Yeah, no, exactly,
Yeah.
you know. And I think, you know, life for students and young people, it should be also about exploring, and a city should be inviting to do that. A city should be built around that. And that also starts with affordability, with safety. And also, you know, of course, sustainability, like we need also a future. And I think that's also what a lot of young people have been telling me, you know, is to make sure that we are really putting this future perspective into the decisions we make. Yeah, and I think in an area, for example, like Zuidwest, a lot of these things come together, right? And I think if you, like as a politician, it's your job to make sure that the resources end up where they should be invested. Because if you don't, what's going to happen is going to flow to like richer neighborhoods. And I think that is the task that we are in today.
That's nice. I have now 4 points proposed by other students. I'm going to tell you the points and then maybe you can tell me what you would do about
Yes,
this.
of course.
So the points are affordability, as we mentioned before, which is a common issue, not just for students, but all the residents of the Hague. Sustainability, which this is a point that was raised mostly by students who come from countries where recycling, especially in households, is a big deal.
Yeah.
While I feel personally also that in the Netherlands, people don't really recycle. Some parts of the Hague do, but it's not as common as it would be in other countries. Then some students are asking for more language courses to learn Dutch because it is also part of integration. I feel I personally feel like if you don't learn a language of a country, you will never truly integrate. But if the cost of the language classes is really high, it's going to be harder for students to be able to afford it and then integrate in the place where they're living. And the last request was third spaces, which are very, very, very important for cities. So spaces where not just students, but young people, but also more aged people can unite without having to spend a lot of money, or without having to, for example, also book the place in advance, because even the lack of places to unite is an issue in a city.
Yeah, no, yeah, definitely agree. Let's maybe start with language, because I just came from a session at a vocational institution, ROC Mondriaan, where we were talking about this language, and also because I teach it, you know, it's something very dear to my heart. I also come from a family with a lot of like languages spoken within the family itself. So I also know how hard it is sometimes to not be understood. And yeah, we talked about it a bit before, but I also studied in Portugal as an exchange student. So there I also learned Portuguese, because I was studying fully in Portuguese. I think, yeah, this is extremely important, you know. For language training, one of the things that is also very important, I think, is that it should be affordable. There is places where you can get language courses and they're extremely expensive. How are you gonna do this as a student? You know, this is outrageous. Like sometimes it's I don't know. It's you can't pay for this. So then what do? You're gonna look for alternatives. You know, so I think this is something that city council should invest in. You know, to make this accessible, affordable, and so you know where to go to. You know. Yeah, this is within educational facilities, of course, a responsibility, but the city of The Hague should, of course, support this. And also something, I don't know how that is for you, but something that I find very important also is that you have more a sense of where to go to in all this bureaucracy. Right? Like going into a new country, it's extremely difficult, you know. This is for students, this is for other newcomers. And that's also something we talked about in the session I just came from, you know, that sometimes you need a bit of support, you know. You need a municipality that stands next to you, you know, that helps you understand the system, that kind of sometimes guides you, you know. Like, I think this is very important. My family is like mixed, so Algerian and Dutch. So from my Algerian side, I also learned I learned a lot about welcoming guests. You know, sometimes you have the Dutch hospitality that also has its charms, but this is also something that you know we should always give a hand to people that are trying to learn something, trying to do something, so these language learning groups is something to very much invest in. Also, because you see how much it helps for people to integrate into the workforce, you know. A lot of people tell me that they cannot find a job because they say, oh, your Dutch is not good enough, or you don't speak Dutch, blah, blah. But then we're all the time saying like, oh, we don't have enough people to fill these jobs. So there I see a lot of opportunity actually for a municipality to step in and, you know, give the hand and say, let's go, let's do it, you know, we'll help you with the language and we'll integrate you into the workforce. So that about language, I think it's very important. You said also third spaces.
Yes.
Very, very important as well. I go to a lot of neighborhoods, like third spaces, and I always find that if you really want to know what's going on in the city, you have to go there, you know, because it's people of all walks of lives coming together. And let's be honest, there has been a lot of cuts in culture, you know?
Yes.
This should not be happening because, even after COVID, you know, we lost a lot of contact with each other, I think. So it's definitely important that we keep investing in this. Also because I think the city of The Hague should like be the safest for all women, but I also think it should be a city that embraces culture, arts, a city where you can go out and have fun, you know. And for this, you of course need third spaces, also for dialogue, you know, understanding each other. I mean, in the like basically the UN is a whole third space where I worked, you know. So I think maybe I also got some.
Ideas from there as
Yeah, you know, it's so many different cultures talking together, and you know, I worked on a lot of issues like ranging from gender-based violence to peace and security there, you know. But if you don't have this dialogue, you cannot solve these issues. So this is on the international level, you know, we call ourselves also City of Peace and Justice, but this City of Peace and Justice should be translated into the lives of people. So third spaces definitely is something that should be invested in, should be money put into, and also sustainably, you know, because sometimes in these third spaces, they're all the time juggling like, oh, am I gonna get the money or not, you know? So, you know, you have to be a trustable partner in this sense. You have to really stand next to the people. That's what we hear from people in the campaign as well, what they really want. And then also affordability, of course. I mean, this is something that I think is very cross-cutting, right? Something that we saw a lot is that so many students, so many young people, they are working really, really hard, like really hard, and sweating, breaking their back almost, you know, supporting a lot of times even family, you know, and then the Hague and the Netherlands it's not cheap.
No,
You know,
definitely.
no, right? It's definitely not cheap. So what are you gonna do if you can barely pay your rent and you have 1,000 things to worry about? Your studies, you're trying to discover who you are, what you think is important. You're trying to, you know, yeah, be like a good person in society. But then you have all these barriers. So this is important, I think, in terms of like housing, definitely priority. And also in terms of transport, definitely a priority that they should be cheap and they should be easily accessible. And then you had the fourth one.
It was sustainability, but in the sense of recycling.
Oh yeah. So yeah, this is actually a very interesting one as well. It's because, well, recycling is always like something we want to do it, right? It's like okay, but the system is sometimes also so confusing city by city. So for example, in some cities, what you have is you don't even know if it's going to be actually recycled, you know. But here you see that there's more people recycling, but sometimes they also don't really know like they don't really know how it will end up, is what I hear a lot. I don't know if that's also
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So I think this is definitely something that we should make easy for people, you know, make it accessible, easy, make sure that, you know, people know what they have to do. They put it somewhere and it gets taken care of. That in terms of recycling. And in terms of other sustainability, something that we also hear a lot from people is that there is also a lot of poverty around energy. So, well, we know that the cost of energy, they can be super high, you know.
Yeah.
Sometimes also if you have housemates that don't really, no, just kidding, not my housemates, they're very good. But
they can influence your
yeah, sometimes
cost.
sometimes, you know, in also shared households, it's also hard to keep track of like what works and what doesn't work. So for example, something that I really love is also energy coaches that help you. They guide you through, for example, how you can do your usage better, but also, for example, that they can guide you through, okay, maybe someone wants to isolate their home, what can we do to help? And they kind of help you through this very hard system to navigate, you know? So I also really love that because, yeah, I mean, we call it like energy poverty, but in the end, it's just poverty, you know? It's an affordability issue as well. And yeah, we shouldn't let people literally sit in the cold, you know. Yeah. So I think this is something to really invest in as well, to make sure that people know where to go, because there is a lot of initiatives in order to make it more sustainable. You have a lot of different organizations that are working so hard to make their neighborhoods more sustainable. But also they should, they should be given a platform. It should be easy and accessible. Yeah, I hope that answers that part of the question.
It was an extensive answer.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us. Do you have one last comment that you would like to leave for our readers and listeners?
Yes, of course. Well, maybe also in terms of like what can you do and who can vote. There is people that can vote in if you have a European passport for the city council, and if you live here for 5 years legally, you can also outside EU vote. I think it's extremely important that we do. It's a difficult time for many of us, so please make sure to vote. And yeah, just know that if there's anything happening in the city, you can contact me. I will definitely help you.
We'll leave your socials under the video.
Yes, of course. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much.